Hello, Frizzle friendlies. In this mug, I have the names of 9 books that I've read recently. So the game today is that I draw these books out in 3 rounds of 3, and in each round I have to decide which book I would reread, which book I would rewrite, and which book I would recycle. So for round 1, Dragon Bones and Dragon Blood, A Dead Djinn in Cairo, and Heroic Hearts. 3 mediocre selections. I think I would reread Heroic Hearts. Heroic Hearts is a collection of urban fantasy short stories. And there were 2 stories that I was the most excited to read out of this collection, which was one from the Dresden Files and one from the Alpha and Omega series. And the Dresden Files one was like, okay, but the one I want to reread is the one from the Alpha and Omega series. This short story follows a side character from the books, a seal, and there has been multiple short stories about him going on blind dates that his friends have somewhat maliciously set him up with. And then each date goes wrong in its own way. But this short story's date goes wrong and goes a little right, and it's so cute. What I admired most about this story is how it captured these 2 sides to a seal. He's really emotionally mature, but also he's kind of off the rails bloodthirsty. And he balances both depending on the situation. So in this short story, there are scenes where he's kind of off the wall bloodthirsty, and it's like, whoa, calm down there, a seal. And then there are scenes here where he is sensitive and mature and helps other people through their emotional problems. So that story was so cute, made the whole collection worth it. I did not read every short story in this collection, because some of them are for series that I'm planning on reading. And I'll just read those when I have more of an emotional connection to the source material. Look at that! Me holding back on reading series out of order. I mean, not for the entire video, just wait till we get to some of the other books on this list. Okay, then next decision, we have Dragon Bones versus Dead Djinn in Cairo. And we're gonna recycle A Dead Djinn in Cairo. This is a novella that takes place in like 1910s Cairo, but with magic and clockwork made angel things, etc. It's urban fantasy. There was so much hype for this. This has been on my want to read for so long, and to my disappointment, it was really boring. It was like the goal of this novella was to let us know the main character is so quirky, she loves suits and clockwork things. And also to let us know everything in this city is so steampunk. It's so steampunk. So you wouldn't believe how many gears this contraption has. And like ostensibly, this is a murder mystery, but I found that part really boring. And so we are recycling A Dead Djinn in Cairo. I rated it 2 stars and its book tone is Xanthus Orange, which means it's intellectual and plot atmosphere focused. Which leaves for round 1, recycling Dragon Bones and its sequel, Dragon Blood. The first book was the October pick for my book club. If you want to join the book club, it's available to my Ko-fi patrons for $2 a month, and it was a blast. I loved discussing this book with everyone on there. Sad to say, this book was mediocre in interesting ways, because the premise is fantastic. This is a fantasy world where our main character, Wardrick, but his father has some violent tendencies, and Wardrick is afraid that his father will hurt him if he's ever seen as a threat to his father's reign. So Wardrick has spent years and years pretending to be mentally disabled. But then at the beginning of the book, his father dies and Wardrick inherits the throne. And now his new problem is that he's done such a good job at pretending to be so simple that no one trusts him to rule. And various plots are set in motion to get him thrown out. In the end, that premise doesn't matter. So to rewrite this book, we're gonna make it matter. We're going to make these side characters, when they find out that Wardrick is not a complete idiot, actually feel resentful that he has been conning them for years in this evil way. We're actually going to have him have to apologize to people over this and really scramble to repair these relationships that have been founded on lies. I rated these books 3 stars, and their book tone is Anchor Gray, which is emotional and plot, character, atmosphere focus. And round 2, here we come. We've got the Vorkosigan books. I really want to reread these, but I know there's something else in this cup that I also want to reread, so we're just gonna hope that they're not in the same round. So this is the Vorkosigan series, books 4, 4.1, 5, 7.1, 7.2, 8, and 9. Don't even pretend to be confused, and no, I did not read them in that order. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've read a bunch of series out of order, and I'll link that video breaking it down in the footnotes. I think that's the first time I've told you guys to go watch that video when it actually already existed. It's always been teasing the video for the future. But no, it's actually out. Okay, next, Box in the Woods, book 4 of the Stevie Bell series, and Bone Dance. That's the other book I wanted to reread. Luck of the draw. Okay, easiest decision first. We're recycling Box in the Woods. We'll put off this dilemma for a few more minutes. The Stevie Bell series is interesting because books 1 through 3 are a trilogy. And then book 4 is kind of tacked on the end. Books 1 through 3 follow a specific mystery that our teenage protagonist Stevie Bell is solving. And then book 4 has a different mystery. And this provides some interesting contrast. And for those 3 books, oftentimes I felt like the mystery was taking it too slow. It got spread over these entire 3 books, and it just took too long for us to get that satisfaction of solving that mystery finally. And then here, with book 4, it's got its own mystery. It's much more fast-paced, and I felt like it was too fast-paced. I think maybe ideally it would be somewhere in between these 2 extremes, that we'd have like 2 books per mystery, or just like 1 long book per mystery. Or maybe taking out some of the subplots that I hate in these books, which is her boyfriend, David. Oh, he's the worst! I hate their relationship so much, and I was really hoping that it wouldn't be here in book 4, because at the end of book 3 he moved away. But in book 4 they're doing long distance and he's still an active character in the story, and hated those parts. We can only hope that he will not be in book 5, which I do plan on reading. These books are so entertaining. Anyway, if you want to watch my review for books 1 through 3, I do have that. Link it in the footnotes as always. Okay, next, which one of these do I get to reread and which one shall I rewrite? The Vorkosigan books or Bone Dance? I have a better idea of how to rewrite Bone Dance. Bone Dance is a novel from one of my favorite authors, Emma Bull, and it's definitely her weirdest novel and the hardest one to pitch, and I think the one with the narrowest appeal. It's like a post-apocalyptic voodoo cyberpunk book. And it's one of those books that does not come out and give you its premise. That does not hand you the plot on a silver platter. You have to work for it. This book is confusing all the way through. And I really love sometimes those puzzles in my books, if it's done well, which I think in this book it is. So if you like weird, very emotional books, I'd recommend it. And I've got a review video for this one going into more detail about what it's about if you would like details on that. Linked in the footnotes as always. But here's how I would rewrite this. In the opening act of this book, there are several different prophecies handed to our main character. They are all fairly jumbled and confusing and from different people, but all kind of boil down to something big is coming, and then maybe a little bit of task of you better be a good person and help save the world. I would cut it down to 1. And I know that this book is going for weird and confusing in the beginning, but I would also take that 1 and make it a little bit more clear-cut to give the reader something to hold on to in this roller coaster. Because I don't really think having all of these different prophecies serves the story in a positive way. It just makes me feel more overwhelmed. But I love this book for its powerful themes of bodily autonomy and coming of age, and for the strong emotional arc of our main character, Sparrow. I love this book for all of these striking images and scenes that have been with me for years since I read this book for the first time. It's got a treasured spot in my heart. I rated Bone Dance 5 stars, and its book tone is jade green, which means it's emotional and character atmosphere focused, which leaves me to reread the Vorkosigan books. I'm still in the middle of the series. I'm planning to fill in all the gaps, but the books that I've read so far, which has been 3 novels and 3 novellas, I want to reread them so bad. The series is my new obsession. I have given every single book 5 stars. It's so good. Okay, how do we explain this series? It's a sci-fi series from the 90s that won plenty of awards in its day, very deservedly. And the series follows various narrators and plot lines, but I've been sticking so far to the books narrated by our character Miles Vorkosigan. And these are very character-driven books, so I'll just describe him and just imagine this character dealing with feudal politics plots and also space pirates. So Miles is the character who usually gets to be the quirky sidekick, who has like 0 physical strength, but 1,000,000% charisma. Like, he can talk his way out of anything. And he's strongly like manic depressive, where for a lot of these books, he's super hyper manic, going out there and making the most reckless, most entertaining decisions. But then when he crashes hard, and I mourn with him. And this book does so much clever things of this dichotomy of strengths and both intellectual and social intelligence, because Miles was born disabled. His bones are incredibly brittle, he's got a hunchback, and he is very short. And usually when you have a main character like that, like Hunchback of Notre Dame, it's a tragedy. The main character might help to save the day, but he doesn't get a happy ending. He doesn't get the girl. Miles does. And he succeeds through his quick wits and allies that he has formed through his awesome friendshipping powers. These books are so entertaining. There's so much plot jam-packed into every single one of these books that it reads so fast. The pace is stellar, but there's also so much plot jam-packed into these books that I can't exactly summarize it well and give that to you on a silver platter. It's entertaining enough, and these books are more character-driven, and that is the cohesive whole that ties all of this sometimes dense plot together. I rate these books 5 stars. And the book tone is uranium blue, which is intellectual and character focus. And before we get to round 3, we've got our dishonorable mentions. And these are books that I gave up on so quickly that I cannot give a coherent full review for them. This time we only have one, which is Dream of Death City. I read the beginning and some of the middle and some of the end of this book, and nothing helped. But when I went to enter my review for this book on Goodreads, I realized that I was only like the 10th person to review this book. Me, about to give it 1 star. And literally everyone who had reviewed it before me, 5 stars. So I don't know if it's what's wrong with me or what's wrong with the book. But apparently lots of people are liking this one. So I don't know. And now we have round 3. The Quantum Chain. Someone is always watching, and becoming Crone. Okay, the easiest decision, rewriting the Quantum Chain. I know exactly what I want to do with these books. This is book 4 in the Joseph Bridgman series, a time travel series based in modern day England. And I really have loved books in this series. I love how they're fast-paced and clever and dramatic. But also, it feels like every book of this series introduces new rules for the time travel. And I was kind of hoping that by book 4, we would have reached an equilibrium and been done with that. New ways that you can do it and loopholes to exploit. And like, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. It's annoying now. So to rewrite this book, I would take out all of these new time travel rules. We don't need them. Stop. We're just sticking with the old ones. Please just replace that page time with like a better character arc for our protagonist. Now, I want to give a shout out to the plot of this book, because I was kind of expecting the plot for this book to be a little samesies to the plot of the previous book, but there were some really nice plot twists that I did not see coming and were highly entertaining. I rated The Quantum Chain 4 stars, and its book tone is Thistle Purple. And next, let's end on a high note, so talking next about the one I would recycle, Becoming Crone. This book is perfectly serviceable. It is a standard Chosen One story. The twist is that she's 60 years old. But what irked me about this book is it always felt like the plot beats were driving the characters instead of the other way around. It never felt like our protagonist Claire was making this decision because that is what she wanted to do because of her own wants and desires and personality. It always felt like this was what Claire was choosing to do because this is what was next in her hero's journey or the setup of the book. And there were all these little awkward plot conveniences that were out of her decisions that also felt like that. Nothing in this book was surprising or interesting to me. It doesn't have any huge flaws, but it doesn't have any huge advantages either. I rated Becoming Crone 2 stars, and it is a Vermilion red book, which means emotional and plot focused. And last but not least is Someone is Always Watching. This is a contemporary young adult thriller. And I'm going to pitch it to you in two ways. First, about the plot, and next, about the characters, because they are both very strong. There's a girl at a private STEM high school that has a mental breakdown and attacks a teacher. As this incident gets suspiciously efficiently covered up, swept under the rug, and maybe mind-wiping some of the participants, dominoes start to topple, as our group of teenage sleuths discover that there are skeletons in everyone's closet, and this is a conspiracy that touches every one of their lives. Our protagonist is a teenage girl named Blythe, and she is the goody two-shoes girl. She does not like to break the rules. And she's met with this series of difficult decisions where when is it worth it to break the rules? Where are her limits and what are her priorities? This book is incredibly readable and I loved it. I rated Someone Is Always Watching 4 stars, and its book tone is Byzantium Purple, which means it's emotional and plot character focused. And those are those books! My favorite books of this round were definitely the Vorkosigan Saga books, so if you want to leave me an emoji, leave me like cane or crutches in honor of our disabled main character there. And a big thank you to my patrons for the support and also for the awesome participation in the book club this month. I had so much fun.